Rule books across the board are getting bloated. How many bad rule books have you read? How many games have you learned despite the rule book trying to actively not tell you how to play the game? Too many. I'm looking at you, Imperium Legends, sitting behind me. Yeah, that game rulebook is atrocious. Warehouse 13, that's the one I got into a debate with online with someone else, like a year or two ago, where they were like, oh, it's easy, just watch the video. I'm like, forking no, mother of pearl. I should be able to read a rule book and know exactly how to play. I mean, those rule guys and rule folks online do a great job, but their services should be in addition to a quality rule book, not in place of. If I don't need the rule book and you just want me to watch a video, don't even include a rule book in the game box. Right? Gauntlet Throne. Show me that. Hey, it's Chris. What are we doing? News. We're doing news. The happenings. The hottenings. Post GenCon. A little bit of everything. Upcoming expansions, crowdfunding, retail, rebrands, a little bit of everything. Let's go right into it. First up, did you see Direwolf Digital? Well, we're getting some digital Dune Imperium, but Dune Imperium's getting a standalone sequel expansion, Dune Imperium Uprising. I mean, it's a standalone spin-off of the regular Dune Imperium with the deck building blend with worker placement, new 6-player mode, 2 teams against each other. It's like they said, well, we don't want to add anything else to the base game, but we want to stay true with the product that's printing us cash right now. So let's do a slight spin-off Clank-wise, right? Clank in space. Anyone? This is Dune Imperium in space. I don't know. I mean, teams. Did you really need to do a new standalone expansion? And they say Rise of Ix and Immortality are going to be compatible, as well as all the cards from the base game, and then you can use the cards from Uprising in the base game itself, so they're Why would I buy one versus the other? What's the real difference here? I mean, I love Dune Imperium. Amazing game. By the way, in case you missed my review, which most of you did, Adventure Realms. It's a fantasy version in a slightly different way, very, very reminiscent of Dune Imperium. So if Dune Imperium does nothing for you as a thematic incorporation, go check this out. But do you really need another? Yeah, I'm going to get another. Is it going to be better? Is it Nemesis Lockdown? That's what I fear, where they're not really that different enough. Everdell, Far Shore. It's sort of like movies right now, right? Why redo movies or TV shows when we can just do a rebooted version of Spider-Man for a 4th time? Or you know what? Let's reset the DC universe. We haven't done that enough. Because, I mean, I understand it from a business model, but also, really? Anyway. So let's talk about the next thing, though. Speaking of Nemesis, let's go over to Dragon Eclipse. Did you see the latest update on Dragon Eclipse from Awaken Realms? They sort of approached it as this higher concept of Pokemon, right? With dragons and monsters and exploration and 1 to 2 players. Really, like 1 to 2 players, right? That's awesome. We don't see any Awaken Realms games like that. But then the latest update was a little bit eye-scratching because they said, we're going to do more of a TCG model. And from the latest update, and I quote, we're trying to bring you a deluxe feeling of CCG games with a very reasonable price tag. That worries me a lot, especially when you've got this awesome, potentially, some of the best artwork we've ever seen from Awaken Realms on some of these cards. And they're saying, hey guys, here's some foils. Like, no. I'm already having issues with that from a Lorcana standpoint. Lorcana, isn't even about 12 hours post GenCon. And there's dozen videos on Board Game Geek saying, here you go, what do you need to, it's not even out at retail for another month unless you waited in an overnight line. And then let's go straight into that, actually. Let's talk about how disgusting that was from Ravensburger, right? No offense, I want Lorcana. It's nostalgia, it's playing on the nostalgia. Are the mechanics actually any good? Well, I think it's mixed out there right now. So check out, people's reviews and early impressions and stuff. But, if you're going to FOMO people and make them spend the night, F you, in line. And then, oh, by the way, we're not actually going to run out of stuff because apparently people were still picking stuff up the day after that whole thing, overnight, and then not even the next day, but the day after they still had plenty of stuff. Come on. You had people getting crushed Walmart style to try and get this. That is crappy business practice right there. You got to call it out. No one's going to call it out, though, because they don't want to miss out on the product, but come on. It's ridiculous. Anyway, back to Dragon Eclipse, though. I'm scared. I don't want to see a TCG model here. I don't want to see a CCG model here from Awaken Realms. That is no. I'm sorry. Like, I can't endorse that. It's FOMO at its core. It's FOMO at the, baseline of things. And now you're going to crowdfund it. Like, I worry. Please tell me I'm wrong here. I would love to be wrong because, I'm just looking at this and going, oh, geez. So, crowdfunding. Big names. Awesome artwork. Speaking of that, though, the previous news video, I was going to have included the whole little revelation about Cthulhu Wars and Peterson Games gets bailed out by a mysterious backer. Well, not really. They got bought out. They got bought out by Catalyst Lab Games. I haven't looked, closely at the details of some of the updates recently, but, Catalyst Games announced on their website that, hey, we are the ones supporting Cthulhu Wars and sending it out now. I mean, presser right here on their website, right? They're hoping to assist in accelerating fulfillment. Several open Kickstarters. Well, half those things aren't designed, so it's going to be a while before you can accelerate the delivery of them. But, I mean, that's your, mysterious Halo backer or sender, shipper, if you will. I'd say it's all that. Now, again, like, I don't know why you'd call it otherwise. I'm glad someone picked it up. It means hopefully people are going to be getting a bunch of their games. But at the same time, just like with Onimaru, someone gets bailed out for screwing up. So it always gives me mixed feelings in that sense too, but I'm happy to see that people are going to be getting their side of things because apparently, in April, also Catalyst announced that they're going to have a dedicated board game section rather than just their usual brands of Shadowrun and Battletech here as well. So take it for what you will. Will it affect them going on crowdfunding? What are we going to see on crowdfunding? We just saw Catalyst do Battletech and the more recent one with Shadowrun. So are they gonna venture into, funding for the other stuff? Or how is that, Peter gonna pay Paul sort of thing? I have no idea. Now, you've probably heard of a couple of these. A lot of crowdfunding projects, sequels, expansions, like I mentioned before, have also been announced recently. We're going to see a whole smattering of stuff, of people leaking out their next info and next games. And unfortunately, I wasn't at GenCon, so I didn't get the scoop on a lot of this stuff. It's just been me trolling the internet. Anyway, first is Barrage from Cranio Creations. Heavy Euro style game is getting a map expansion for the base game, optimizing action spaces really mainly, but people who like Barrage as a really heavy cutthroat style of Euro network building game, I guess. There's an interest for it, so take that for what you will. Marrakesh, in case Queen Games hasn't put out enough versions of this already, the deluxe, the essential, the non-essential, the ultimate legendary pandemic version, they're getting an expansion somehow, even though we haven't seen it even show up at wide retail yet, availability-wise. I think Devere was actually picking up. Didn't they pick up and publish a little bit of a cardboard version of it, or it's coming out in the near future, I think? Something along those lines, but they've already announced an expansion for Marrakesh as a Feldian extra, I guess, but does it need an extra? Like, do you really need more of it? People haven't gotten it in the first place, so it seems weird to announce an expansion from that side of things. Fantasia Games, though, is also giving us a new version of Colosseum. Not only a new printing with graphical update, even though I feel like Tasty Minstrel did one a couple years ago as well, but we're getting a deluxeified version as well as a standalone Colosseum game called Colosseum Av Titus, and that's going to be going sometime in crowdfunding in 2024. So how different is it going to be? What is it going to entail? Yeah, so we're going to see what they did, because it came out originally from Days of Wonder, Tasty Minstrel, and now we're going to have another edition from Fantasia Games. And Fantasia, you know them from Unconscious Mind and Endless Winter, if that rings any bell. So we're going to see what they have upcoming. And then we're getting a Vagrantsong expansion. One of my top games from 2021 is getting an expansion sometime coming to crowdfunding in the next couple months as well. So we'll kind of see what that entails. More goodness from Vagrantsong. So if you liked Vagrantsong from Weird Games in the first place, this is their really big foray into the tabletop board game side of things. They're more for their miniature war game-esque style of things. And so it was a big hit. It was a big hit for them, and it's a good game. It's a freaking fantastic game. So is this going to entice people to get back in? How different is it going to be? Is it going to add too much complexity? Is it just going to add the right amount of depth that you're looking for to replay something like this? Yeah, we'll kind of go there. We'll kind of see where it's going to bring and see what they can do. Sheriff of Nottingham is also getting a new version from Seedmon, only it's the Robin Hood, like your childhood Robin Hood cartoon retheme. That's all I got with that one. I mean, it's attractive. It's playing on nostalgia. It's a fine deduction bluffing game. I got nothing else to say, positive or negative. Speaking of sequels, though, Serling Games. You may not know this. You may be familiar with some of their other games. Puzzle Strike 2, one of my top games of last year. But they're bringing us a new version of Yomi. Yomi, the second edition, is sitting right over there on my shelf. But we're getting a Yomi, just like with Puzzle Strike 2, not 3.0. A whole new second edition. It's now in the digital form, being done online, currently playtesting, released. I think it's on Steam. But we're going to see a physical version sometime, in the future. Not sure any timetable is set on that whatsoever. But as someone who loves this style of game, I am super hyped about this because it's doing what it did for Puzzle Strike, giving you a similar sense, but with just a better iteration. So I'm really hyped to see what they can do with that one, especially in the physical form. Speaking of the physical form, I have one right here. Not sure if this will be before or after this video airs, but Exceed is coming to crowdfunding at the end of the month. Again, Level 99 Games is putting out a new, not really season, but a new IP associated with Exceed. And this is Guilty Gear from the original video game series from the late 1990s in its 25th iteration or so that they put out individually next to this. Don't worry, the box is empty, but sorry, I can't resist doing that. I'll have a full breakdown of the demo deck and my thoughts on it and why I love Exceed in the first place, and it just reignited me wanting to get that more to the table. I didn't pick up the last season of the Under Night expansion season, and I'm just not sure if I'm going to. I mean, I don't know. But this has a little bit back to the baseline because I think there were some concerns that they put this new mechanic each time in Exceed, and so this one has a little bit less of that and more streamlined, but it has an ability to get you like an extra turn if you spend a gauge or force to do so, which is really cool because otherwise, if you're not familiar with Exceed, it's just you get one action per turn and you just go back and forth trying to knock out the other person unless you run out of cards, which is a whole nother end game win scenario. So that's going to be out there. Speaking of expansions, though, again, Expeditions. Jamie Stagmeyer over on the Expeditions Facebook group, he confirmed that a sequel expansion, not standalone though, an expansion for Expeditions, their latest, relatively well-received game, the Scythe sequel from Another Mother, is going to be coming out in the future. And now I'm going to guess not at least until sometime, hopefully mid-2024, but it's already in the works, it's already in significant development, it's already making significant progress, which is both exciting and trepidatious to hear because if you're like me and you're waiting for retail, it's not even supposed to be at retail for general people of the public like myself until the end of the month. So, again, cart before the horse, but you know what? People are striking while the iron is hot in that sense. So take that for what you will. And let's go over here and let's see what we've got going on as well with Grand Austria Hotel, because they're going to have a new standalone expansion. Now, again, it's a little bit misconstrued because on the page, apparently in Board Game Geek, it says that your base game is required, but they clarified in the comment section that this is actually going to be a standalone game all in of by itself. And what this is going to be called is going to be called High Season. No details, not even a Board Game Geek entry at this point. So how do you feel? But apparently it's been popping up in pre-order in stores already. So that's kind of how people found out about it, which is always kind of the weird way to find out about things, especially when it's not elsewhere. So what else we got going on? New games coming out. A new Knizia, Sunrise Lane, a re-implementation of an older game called Rondo, where this is more of a card game driven civ building, city building situation where you're placing your cards and building adjacent to previous structures and discarding in order to connect spaces to how you want to do it. And the more you discard, the more you'll be able to place. And when you have only a certain number of houses left in your supply, a la sort of a Ticket to Ride endgame scenario, that's when the game ends, and the highest buildings as well as the most buildings are going to score you points. So it seems like a little bit of a step up, a little bit in a different way from Ticket to Ride in general. So I'm really excited to kind of see what this one entails. Going back over to the upcoming sequel expansions, adjacent situations. If you remember from Lookout Games, Mandala, amazing 2-player game sitting over there in my collection. You've got sort of your 5 or so little mandalas or 3 mandalas sitting in the center, and you're putting cards out there color-wise. And then if they're out there, then you can't put them, on your inner board. And so you're trying to get the dynamic of getting the most of certain colors as they slowly grow in points, and you choose the points as they get collected. Just an absolutely tremendous 2-player game. And we're getting a re-implementation of that using tea towel playmats in the form of a game called Pattern. It's another area control game designed from the same designers, and you're going to take turns swapping these tiles on your mandala back and forth as more of a territory, and you're trying to create the mandala with all but 2 out of the 54 colored tiles. So you're claiming the most points at the end and winning. So if this is anything re-implementation-wise of the original, I'm going to be all over this one as well. This was a big surprise hit for me and my wife. My wife actually really, really enjoys this game, which was an absolutely tremendous, great surprise from my standpoint. The other one is upcoming from AEG. Their next game was announced, and this is going to be Undergrove, where we're going back to the nature thematic incorporation with fungi growing new trees. Pick up and deliver, tile placement, worker placement, medium weight, the self-described, not 4, 3x, where you're a Douglas fir tree that's building symbiotic relationships with fungi. I mean, talk about sentences I didn't think I'd be saying right now, but you're helping these seedlings grow into trees, transferring resources back and forth between the fungi, and the player with the best set of seedlings with the most valuable relationship symbiotically wins. Show me what you got gameplay-wise. It's a very popular theme overall right now, so we'll see where it goes. And it looks like, again, this one's going to be coming in the very near future. AEG announced that this one's going to be coming to crowdfunding sometime, I think, in the month of October, so we'll see how well this one works mechanically speaking with the thematic incorporation. Speaking of reprints, remember Chinatown, the area control game? I have the reprint or the re-edition of it in a different form over there of Awari. And we're getting another version of it, another re-implemented version of it in the form of completely something opposite. And this is Waterfall Park. Waterfall Park, where you're just creating a giant amusement park as an area control, negotiation, set collection style of games. Trade, exchange, attractions, and building the biggest amusement park that you can. But you're building it vertically on towers in the middle of the ocean. So that's the difference you're going with here. And apparently it's going to be a little bit shorter time frame wise and more family friendly, I'm guessing thematically. And you're going to be exchanging a lot more in order to increase the interaction in the game in the first place. So better, worse, about the same. I know people think Chinatown's a pretty good game overall. So what's a reskin going to do for it? No idea. Next up, we're whipping through these today. Schrodinger's Cat is getting a new version. And what I mean by that is Cat in the Box, the trick-taking game with Schrodinger's cat about whether it's dead or alive or something in between, is actually going to crowdfunding because they're going to do, get this, a colossal version with huge components. So I'm guessing like King Domino, we're going to get a huge price as well. But there's going to be 2 expansions that are going to also come along with that huge component upgrade. So how does that make you feel? Do you want a huge game? Is that more than just a novelty? I don't really know, but take that for what you will. Revive, a game that was nominated by a few people, big channels that really loved it for 2022, even though it still isn't widely available in North America for retail now. There's already an expansion announced for it. And if you're not familiar with the base game of Revive from Reported Games, it's sort of a campaign legacy combination Euro-style game with asymmetric player powers as you develop your civilization over several game sessions that then at the end is long-standing and lasting, etc. forever. And so this expansion is bringing you these large, massive mythical creatures that roam or find their homes in lakes and glaciers. And by building next to them, you get more powerful cards from them, different actions and initiations that are available to you, as well as missions and ultimately devotion points, which are going to help you win the game. It also comes with 4 new tribe boards that are going to be available to you to mix and match along with the base game as well to give it even more of a potential long standing. Now, again, like I mentioned, a little bit of a heavier Euro style mechanism going on here, 3.5 weight on Board Game Geek. So it's going to, probably play you 2 hours ish per gameplay, depending on who you are. So do you want more? Do you need more? Do you don't even have a copy of the base game already? So either way, we'll kind of see. The next interesting thing that just could have crossed my radar, do you care? Does it matter if a game is broken? Do you really care? Like if a game has something significant that can be exploited, Video games, it happens all the time and people think it's really cool, right? Look at the original Mario games, like the speedrunners that exploit those gaps, right? Well, interestingly enough, unfortunately enough, I guess, depending on who you want to talk to or talk about with this, Stonemaier Games' latest expedition, some very, very intrigued and digging deep players with their Champions copies so far have uncovered a couple, 1 or 2, infinite loops in terms of the gameplay. And how do you feel about that? If you know it's there, I mean, it could be a big deal breaker. But if you're casually playing it and you're not going to be hardcore playing one game for 30 times in a week, does it really matter? Or, as the opposite side of the argument often is getting made in the forum section, you know what? How much was this play tested? Why wasn't this ironed out in the first place? Stonemeyer doesn't test their games. You know, those are the comments getting and the accusations going thrown back and forth. And the trouble is, you know what? Stuff like this happens. And you may not like it, but, you know, it's also probably something, at least it appears on surface value, that partially a rule it got overlooked in the errata section of the rule book, which is, again, sort of a critique with some of their other ones where, you know, the errata, just like with Marvel Champions, they put it online, but you never really make a new printed copy, which is kind of irritating. But with a simple rule change or two, you can completely eliminate it as well, it sounds like. So does it really matter in the end? Does it? You know, people complained especially about the balance of Tapestry, and I can't say one way or the other on that side of things. But the interesting split is, well, if you're playing it hardcore competitive, yeah, it might actually make a difference if you're like a Terra Mystica junkie and do the same thing like that. Or, you know, if you're just playing to have a good time, it really doesn't freaking matter. So that's going to be divisive. I know those words are going to put people on one side of the aisle or the other, but you know what? You can be both. It can be something that you go, I don't really like that, but you know what? As a casual game player who's only going to play it half a dozen times before I move on to the next thing and I don't get back to it until next year, is it really going to make it or break it for me as a huge thing or not? And the answer on that side of things is, well, kind of no. So there you go. That's the stuff I've seen that's come out recently. Probably going to see some, you know, bigger name leaks as well as post GenCon news erupting over the next couple days to weeks as well, because there was a lot of information handed to people, I think, in exclusive media content creator events that I got invitations to, but sadly could not participate in. So I haven't heard any of those media press releases via email yet. So you'll just have to wait alongside me and see what else comes out. So we'll go from there and we'll do it together. Hand in hand. I got nothing else. I'm rambling at this point. So I'm probably going to have to go deal with a sleeping 2-year-old. He just can't stay in his bed. He wakes up like 2 or 3 times a night, and inevitably almost every single night he's ended up in our bed since we did this new bed situation with him from his crib. And it's horrible, to be frank with you. I'm spending most of the time on the couch, actually, because, you know, half of the other nights, it's one of our older kids' special night once a week to spend a night in our bed. And so then between the two of them, half the time there's not room for me. And then the 2-year-old ends up in the bed. So then there's really not any room for me whatsoever. So, yeah, I sleep on the couch a lot lately. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's fantastic. Getting older and it's awesome. Still recovering. I injured my clavicle like a month ago. It's like clavicular muscular tear, like right here. And I've had to put off weightlifting almost completely for the last month. And I've lost so much muscle. Like I just started like doing some rehab lifting the other day. And I'm lifting like just super light stuff. Again, like more to rehab it, not to like build up and get a good workout. But I'm like, I can't do this. Like, and not even this, but just like the strength loss. And so I'm really pissed. 6 to 12 months of work is like lost in a month, it feels like. It's perception completely, but it's also getting older and it just sucks. Good news is I found out I'm really good running, and that's probably also the reason I lost some muscles. I did a bunch of cardio. I probably shouldn't have done that much, but I can run 3.5 miles in 30 minutes. So, you know, running a sub 8:30, you know, 5K. So guess I'm still in good shape. It's just different shape. So that's all I got. I'm done rambling, you know, peace out. Have a great freaking day. Thanks for subscribing and tuning in and just putting up with me in the first place. So Patreon, they're going to get some stuff. Give them some news as well, little extras, and see what else we got in store for them, because I got a bunch of stuff that I just need to review and talk about. So see, wasn't kidding. Here's the other Exceed actual game. It's got some nifty little metal coins, and I've got a couple other games over here that I need to get filmed for. Undaunted, Battle of Britain, Globetrotting, and Maximum Apocalypse. That's on the pile right there for filming in the very near future. Plus, you tuned in still? Wayfarers of South Tigris. I'm not sure if that one's going to come up before or after this one, but hopefully after. So it's not, you know, like me spoiling things at the end here. But if it is, I'll just delete this part anyway. This is my channel. I can ramble on at the end of my videos and no one's going to watch this part anyway. So it's all good. Have a great day. See you around.